Hi everyone, welcome back. In the last video, we discussed about hooks, we discussed about useState hook, and we also learned how we can use this useState hook to declare a state variable. And we built this counter in our application. So when I click on this increase button, it increases this value, and this value, this counter value, is a state variable. That means if this value changes, this whole component, this app component, is getting re-rendered. In this video, what we are going to learn, we are going to learn that if we don't use this state variable carefully, then it can cause a lot of trouble. I am going to show you the problems that it causes when we don't use state variable properly. So let's come to our code. So this is the code of our application, and we built this counter feature in the last video. So let me teach you a concept before we learn the problems of useState hook. So here you see app component. In this app component, I am rendering this navbar component. So in React, this app component is called parent component and this navbar component is called child component. So this app component is the parent component of navbar. So let me write this, and this navbar component is the child component of app. So this app bar has one child, this nav bar. Let us see that whether this nav bar has its own child or not. So if I open this nav bar component, I see a search bar. That means this search bar is a child component of nav bar, or we can also say that this nav bar is a parent component of search bar. So we have our parent component app, then we have a nav bar, a child component of app, and we can also say that we have another component, search bar, that is grandchild of this app bar. The search bar is a child of nav bar and the search bar is the grandchild of this app bar. Okay, and in React, whenever the parent component, let me write it, whenever the parent component whenever the parent component re-renders whenever the parent component re-renders, all its child grandchild component also re-render. So all child re-render, all child grandchild grandchild all re-renders. Okay, so whenever I am clicking on this increase button, this app component is getting re-rendered. That means this nav bar is also getting re-rendered, and this search bar that is present here is also getting re-rendered. So let me show you how it is getting re-rendered. So let me write app app re-renders. Let me write over here search bar re-renders. So let me write search bar re-renders, and let me write here in the nav bar re-renders. Okay, so now let me increase this value. So when I increase this value, first this app is getting re-rendered, then this nav bar component is getting re-rendered, and then this search bar component is getting re-rendered. So what is happening here, all the three components that are app component, nav bar component and search bar component, all three are getting re-rendered, which we don't want. We don't want this nav bar and search bar to get re-rendered. So this is a problem. Okay, so whenever a parent component gets re-rendered, all its child components also get re-rendered. To solve this problem, what we can do, we can extract this counter feature in a new component. So let's make a new file. Let's call it counter.jsx, and let us write a component. I hope you remember how to write a component. So to write a component, first we write const the name of the component, is an arrow function that returns a JSX. It returns, let's say, a div. Okay, and now what we should do, we should export this. So export default counter, export default counter. And now let's copy this whole thing. So let's copy this, and now let's paste it over here. We also need this useState hook here, so let's import the useState hook here. Let's remove the useState hook here because we don't need here. Now also let's remove everything, this counter logic from here to our counter component. Okay, so let me remove this br tag, and instead of that br tag, let me write a div and write this counter inside this div. Okay, now let's see whether this works or not. Oh, our counter is not showing over here, so I think we haven't imported it over here. So let's import our counter and let's show the counter below the nav bar. So now let's see that this solves the problem of re-render or not. So let me write a console log over here, console log counter re-renders, counter re-renders, and that's it. So now I am increasing the counter value, and if you see here, only this counter component is getting so this nav bar and this search bar is not getting re-rendered. So what we did, we basically solved the unnecessary re-rendering of this nav bar component and this search bar component. So whenever you use useState hook, this useState hook or state variables in React, always remember that it can cause unnecessary re-renders if you're not cautious. So be cautious while using this state variables, this useState hook. I've seen a lot of people using this useState hook and not thinking about the re-renders that it causes. So I want you to think about the re-renders. Try to minimize those extra re-renders. So we minimize the extra re-renders, those unnecessary re-renders from our application, and now our application is more performant. Okay, and I will see you in the next one. Thank you.